Instagram's billion-dollar Facebook backlash, Nokia's president talks Lumia, and the world's biggest Android tablet, this time on SpoonFed Mobile. When Mark Zuckerberg announced this week that Facebook was scooping up the photo-sharing service Instagram for $1 billion, hipsters the world over collectively cringed. And who can blame them? They were still getting over the fact that the unwashed Android masses were allowed to join their party. As it turns out, Instagram is not going to die of overexposure. In fact, it became the #1 free app in Apple's App Store this week. I, for one, am actually glad that Facebook and Instagram are hooking up. After all, 250 million photos are uploaded every day to the social network. It would be nice if there was a little retro chic variety being added to the mix. Unless my mom signed up, then I would give up for good. Right now, the tablet wars are really a two-horse race between Apple and Amazon, but Samsung is hoping to put out the Kindle Fire with a value-priced tablet of its own. It's called the Galaxy Tab 2 7.0. Doesn't that just roll off the tongue? For $249, the latest Galaxy Tab beats the Kindle Fire in some key ways. For $50 more, you get a camera, a slimmer design, access to the full Google Play Store, plus this tablet can double as a remote for your TV. Tune into Laptop Mag for our full review of the supposed Kindle killer. And you thought the Galaxy Note was big. Today we're taking a look at the Toshiba Excite 13, which is the first 13-inch Android tablet on the market. This definitely has a larger-than-life screen at 13 inches and 1600 by 900 resolution. But at $650, is this tablet going to be just too big for the masses? We're going to tell you what we think. Your first instinct when you take your first look at the Excite 13 coming from Toshiba is to point and laugh. But there is a rhyme and reason for the very large screen size. Toshiba says that this was designed for sharing content and for living room use, so you're going to get a very large display for surfing the web, and again it's 1600 by 900 pixels, and it's among the highest that you'll find on a tablet on the market. So it's good for surfing the web, also for watching video, especially if you're going to be watching video with one other person or even more than one. So for example, if you're on YouTube, you can see that the picture quality is pretty good, and the volume, because there are SRS speakers built in, the sound gets very loud. So it's almost like having a little TV by your side. The other thing that this big screen comes in handy for is for video chat. It has a 1080p camera on the front. So again, you can fit more than one person in the frame. And the quality is actually pretty good for a front-facing camera. On the back, you have a 5 megapixel camera, and like a lot of other Toshiba tablets, they're placing an emphasis on ports. So in addition to HDMI and USB, you have a micro SD slot, which a lot of people appreciate, in addition to your power jack and your headphone jack. And on top, you have the volume controls and a lock switch for the orientation. On the inside of the Excite 13, you have Tegra 3 power, so this is a quad-core processor. And the display itself is nice and sturdy because it's made of Gorilla Glass. You know, we're not sure if consumers are ready for a tablet this big, but we definitely give Toshiba credit for trying to stand out in the Android tablet crowd. You're going to have to wait until we bring you our full review of the Excite 13, but so far we definitely are impressed with its size. So we're talking about the launch of the Lumia 900 for Nokia, and Nokia and AT&T have been talking a lot about educating customers and making sure they understand the benefits, and obviously the design plays a big role, right? Because this looks a lot different than your typical slab, right, of Android or anything else. So design plays a big role, but what are the 2 or 3 things that you think are going to get people to gravitate towards not just Windows Phone in general, but your Windows Phone?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. I think design, fantastic. I think price point, we make it accessible to a large population of consumers, which is great.
Right.
And I think there's experience. You have the screen that's beautiful with clear black display that looks fantastic in sunlight. You have imaging, which is great imaging. And then I think about unique Nokia experiences, things like Nokia Drive, which is the best turn-by-turn directions. That's available for free for all Lumia devices. Things like Nokia Transit for public transportation. Things like ESPN, which is a unique app that brings unique functionality and content only to Lumia phones. And we can go on and on. I mean, CNN, Sesame Street, et cetera, Univision. So we have a whole set of unique experiences that I think really differentiate this device for consumers.
You know, a lot of people have been talking about the app gap that exists on the Windows Phone platform, and even though Microsoft has made a lot of progress, there are over 80,000 applications, you guys are stepping up to the plate with Nokia Drive and CNN and ESPN and delivering some of those experiences that you're talking about. But there are still some titles that people wish they had, like Angry Birds Space, Pandora, or a couple that come to mind. How do you close that gap, and how do you sort of leverage your own strengths working with developers that you did with Symbian and sort of that heritage?
Yeah. So let me talk about the progress we've made. Is you talked about the 80,000. You know, when we signed the deal with Microsoft in February, we had less than 6,000 apps in the Windows marketplace. Today we have over 80,000. So fantastic progress. That's work by both Nokia and Microsoft. So we're continuing to do that work. Job not done, and we're continuing to focus on it. But it's not just the total number of apps, it's the right apps, and then making sure those have unique experiences. So when we bring an app to Windows Phone, making sure it utilizes the panorama view, live tiles, hubs, etc. And then what Nokia is doing, as I talked about, is bringing unique experiences to the Lumia devices, and you'll see that continue to grow and get better. But things like you mentioned, CNN, ESPN, Sesame Street, Drive, Transit, Univision, a whole host of those things that we think really create a differentiated experience for the consumer.
Okay, so how do you measure success for a launch like this, and how important is it to Nokia on a scale of 1 to 10?
It's very important, obviously, and it's a step in our transformation and our journey along with Windows Phone. Coming back in the U.S., very important for us. I get a lot of questions about, you know, what's the unit goal, what's the market share? Obviously, I wouldn't talk about any of those things publicly. What I will tell you is what myself and our leadership team is myopically focused on, and that's the consumer experience. Now, the official term we use is Net Promoter Score. Without getting into the science of it, it's how much that consumer loves the device and is willing to recommend it to a friend, a family friend, etc. We are so focused on that because we think if we get that right and customers love the device, they have a great experience, and they're willing to tell other people and recommend it, all the other business metrics take care of itself. So that is the thing that we focus on across my organization, because again, that's the thing, if we get right, everything else takes care of itself.